Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, Polly, it's for your sake alone. I left my dear old father, my country and my home. I left my dear old mother to weep and to mourn. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home. It's grape shot and musket and the cannon lumber loud. There's many a mangled body, the blanket for their shroud. There's many a mangled body left on the fields alone. I am a rebel soldier and far from my home.
Okay, folks, thanks for joining us here today on the broadcast. It is the 27th day of November, 2020. I hope you had trust you had a wonderful Thanksgiving celebration with you and your family. Hopefully you have family that you're celebrating with. It always sucks to be alone on the holidays. Sadly, many of us are, or many people are, not me, but many people are, especially veterans. And we certainly, our hearts go out to the veterans out there that are spending time alone here in the holidays. So if you know a veteran that doesn't have anyone in their family or are sort of isolated around the holiday season, especially, make sure that you reach out to them and let them know that you appreciate their service and that you help them if the snow piles up or they need some help going to the grocery store, something like that. It'd be a wonderful holiday spirit to be able to do those type of things for the veterans. And we, of course, strongly support the veterans here on this broadcast. So thanks so much for joining us here today. If everything's working properly, we should be broadcasting on quite a few different platforms. Also, I just added Podbean. This is my first actual Podbean live broadcast right now. So I'm assuming everything's going out okay on Podbean. I'm looking at the the meter here. It looks like it's a meter for the broadcast. Looks like it's working fine. So actually, there's somebody in the chat room, apparently, and I appreciate that. So, all right, looks like Podbean's working. Great. That's just one more platform that we're going to try to utilize to get the word out. What we're going to do here today on this broadcast is talk a little bit about what's going on with the coming storm. And if you can't see it now, folks, you see how the whole entire fraud that is the whole Democrat Party, and there's Republicans too. The whole fraud's becoming unraveled. And I've talked about this on the broadcast numerous times. Once we reach that point, that tipping point where it becomes painfully obvious that there's been a whole entire con job going on, probably since all of us have been alive on this show. Now, if you're older than, I guess, these Federal Reserve Act, and what was that, 1913. So I guess if you can remember that and what happened before that, maybe you're not in that group that has been scammed and conned their whole life. But if you're born after 1913, when they implemented the Federal Reserve Act, you've been like we all have. We've been scammed our entire lives, and a lot of that's coming to an end now, as we can see, because all this stuff is interconnected, folks. Everything that you see is interconnected. All the evil and all the wickedness and all the cons and all the grafts and all the, another thing I was just thinking about yesterday. Has anyone noticed? I mean, thank God. Has anyone noticed that there hasn't really been a whole lot of plane crashes since Trump's been president? Haven't we noticed? I mean, how many times do we see these plane crashes and people die on plane crashes? That's one of the ways that the deep state used to eliminate people. I look at Ron Brown, for crying out loud. Just take a look, just Google Ron Brown and look at the whole Ron Brown case. Not good. So this is these type of things and these type of operations are going to be coming to light. We know that all of this started really back when they assassinated JFK in the open, pretty much in the open, and they got away with it. They got away with it. They used Lee Harvey Oswald as the fall guy. They tricked everyone, and once they realized that they could pull that kind of con on people, what's stopping them, right? What's stopping them from continuing to con people, well, continuously? There's really hardly any resistance. There's some alternative media programs, and there has been throughout the years, and some excellent authors, that Anthony Sutton, and I mean, there's just tons of people that have written. Leon Clausen, is it? Leon Skousen, Joel Skousen. I've had Joel on the show here a long time ago, but Cleon Skousen, I believe, is his name. One of the great writers that sort of tried to wake people up. Pawns in the Game. It's another great book. So these things have been out there for a long time, and there's been sort of, I guess you could say, the fringe, really truth tellers. They were considered conspiracy theorists, and that's one of the terms that has been used so masterfully throughout the years, and that's just a label that. That's the label that the deep state, the elite, whatever you want to call, and I'm not sure if they're very elite. They're big liars. I know that. They're con artists. They're certainly really first class con artists. There's no doubt about that. But are they elite? I don't think so. I don't really think they're that quote unquote elite. I think they're just good at that lying and tricking people and controlling information. I think once that information comes out and everybody's privileged to the same information that they're have privilege to, then their whole entire thing falls apart, folks. And you can see it happening now. I said it on the show a dozen times. The con cannot continue as long as the people being conned figure out that there's a con. And we're fastly approaching that right now. It's actually happening. It's happening now. It's happening today. It's happening. Did anybody see this Pennsylvania court or this thing the other day where in Pennsylvania, I think they sat in front of the state legislature, and the people came up with who can ever say that there's no evidence of this happening ever again? Now, I think just now, recently, here, the circuit court, appeals court, I forget which one it is here, just denied the Trump campaign's ability to nullify the results. I forget the proper terminology because I saw it on Twitter real quick, but it's just recent. It's recent. Next stop is going to be the Supreme Court. Folks, you understand? In state after state after state, more people voted than registered voters. I mean, how much more evidence do you need? Now, typically in past elections, the voter turnout was pretty weak, right? 40, 50%. That may be kind of high. Maybe 60%. I don't know. Not 127%. I mean, that's the kind of returns. You get 127% of the people voting. Oh, really? I mean, people would show up, and they would send all these ballots out to people that didn't even ask for them. Right? These ballots would come back. People would show up in person at the voting place, and they'd say, "Yeah, you've already voted." I'm like, what do you mean I've already voted? Well, you've already voted. Well, no, I didn't. Why would you come here if I did? I don't have the kind of time to waste. Well, no, you're voted. No, I didn't. Well, we'll have to give you a provisional ballot. And, that's the big scam, right? That's the big scam. It's a huge scam. It's a huge fraud. They're going to label this video, that's not proven. Yeah, sure it is. Of course it's proven. How many more people than ballots than people that actually exist? How many times does that have to happen before people go, yeah, it's a scam? I mean, are we that dumbed down? Are we that dumbed down? I hope not. I certainly hope not. What I'm going to talk about today is some of these things. This is all coming out. We knew the storm was coming. It's been talked about for a while. I know those of us in the quote unquote truth movement have been wanting this for such a long time. I know a lot of people are frustrated because I've been following this for years and years and years, and I've seen these criminals, and I've known that they're out there for such a long time, and seen them operating openly, and knew that they were scamming folks and trying to wake people up for a long time. People would laugh in my face, call me all kinds of different names. I mean, I'm a fairly big guy, so I never really took a beat down, but I mean, verbal beat down for sure. Hey, Everybody wakes up in a different time. It takes time, a different level of awakening for some people before they realize it. And I think a lot of the stuff what's going on now is even going to wake up the most ardent deniers. And I've talked about here, you have to understand, what hasn't even been released, as far as I know, to my knowledge, and I'm just touching on a couple of things. Things happen fast, and things happen in, different news outlets report it or don't report it. So as far as I know, from best of my knowledge, the Epstein stuff hasn't been fully revealed yet. NXIVM, come on, there were branding women there, and a lot of people in Hollywood were involved. NXIVM, I don't think the full information about that has come out yet. How about Hillary's emails? Apparently they have all of Hillary's emails. That hasn't been released yet, as far as I know, not en masse. How about the Wiener laptop? We heard of reports of hardened detectives or hardened police officers in New York getting sick to their stomach over the stuff that they saw on that. We haven't seen that stuff released yet, as far as I know. Right? All the players involved in the Russian hoax, all that hasn't been released yet, as far as I know. Ghislaine Maxwell, everything that she has, all the information, the dirt that they have. Apparently, Epstein's got video footage of all the people that he was blackmailing. That stuff has got to be in someone's hands. None of this has been released yet, right? They're touting the Joe Biden president-elect false press conferences with his foolish seal that doesn't even matter. It's like not even real. It's all made up. It's all fantasy. It's all a fantasy with these people, right? They got to sell the lie to the very end because the lie's being exposed. You remember, I put this up here. Remember Baghdad Bob? You remember Baghdad Bob sitting there doing press conferences, troops behind him, blowing stuff up, moving towards his location. No, we captured them all. They're under our control. Nothing to see here. We got things fully under control. Come on, folks, you got to remember, if you don't remember Baghdad Bob, go on YouTube and type in Baghdad Bob or whatever other video platform and look at some of the Baghdad Bob press conferences, even to the very end. To the very end. Smoke in the background of bombs from U.S. forces going off. To the very end. He's there in front of the camera. No, we got anything under control. Nothing to see here. Okay? Expect the same type of coverage as they continue to move forward, even when the proof comes out and even when the evidence is overwhelming. They're still going to lie and deny and propagandize their position until they're no longer on air. That's just the way that it's going to be. And no matter what evidence comes up, Twitter's still going to put those stupid labels on the bottom. This is not proven. When they have evidence, again, not to beat a dead horse, but when you have evidence that, for example, there's 100,000 voters and 165,000 ballots come back in, that's evidence of fraud. Then every single label on every single tweet from President Trump or others that say there's evidence of fraud in the 220 election, none of those should have those disclaimers on them. Not one of them. Because if there's one case of fraud, then you can say there's been fraud in the 220 election, right? Remember the OJ trial? I think it was it Furman was the detective? Well, if he's proven of committing one lie, then none of his testimony is valid, right? If he gets proven of committing one lie, everything else means nothing, right? We can't use any of his testimony. If there's any instances of cheating anywhere, the whole thing's considered, a fraud, a cheat, a cheated election. Which I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but you know what I'm saying. If there's one instance of it in any state, then the claim can be made that there is a cheating in the election. But the powers that be that run these social media companies, of course they're in on the scam. You know this. See that meeting that occurred back some years back when all the tech giants are all sitting around at a table having some meal with Obama and I think Zuckerberg was there and the guy from Apple and Schmidt and all these scoundrels. all this criminal cabal, all this tech cabal. We're all there hanging out, right? Breaking bread, planning their devious, plotting and planning their devious attempt to overthrow the country. Well, it's not going to work. They lost. Do you understand? They've lost. Just the fact that we know as much as we know now, and we realize that these voting machines and the scam that these voting machines are, that is devastating to them. Do you understand? Devastating. Devastating. They never, ever wanted us to know about all of these things that we're finding out about, as I just mentioned. Hillary's emails, the Weinstein laptop, right? Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Nexium, Harvey Weinstein, and on and on and on. These things they never wanted them to be out in the open, right? The only way that these crimes can continue if they happen in darkness. Evil always operates in darkness, folks. Always. Always. And that's what happened. The darkness was provided by the press, there's so many people involved. It's almost like, if I go down, you're all going down. So they've all, joined together in league to continue to mask the truth. And this is what they've done for generations and generations. Right? I was called crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist when I would say, no, there really is a group of people at the top that don't have our best interest in mind and continuously plot and plan to overthrow this country and subject us to slavery. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many people laughed at me when I would say that years and years ago. Okay? So I'm not like a I told you so kind of guy. That's fine. You're fine, right? I'm pretty thick-skinned. Laugh at me, call me names, whatever. Just get on board for the victory, for crying out loud. Okay? Just put your pride aside for a minute and say, okay, so maybe I was wrong all those years. I forgive you. Okay? I forgive you. I don't have any ill will towards you. Just get on board with the winning team and let's stop this evil, for crying out loud. You can do it. It's you. Look in the mirror. That's the person. Headquarters is not going to call. No one from headquarters is going to place a call. Trump's not going to call you personally. Okay? He might. Not likely. Okay? And I say that because Trump is probably the only president I can imagine, president that would just call a regular person on the phone, if there was an event that happened or, or they were beat down for wearing a MAGA hat. Trump's would call them, right? So, but probably not going to call you. Okay? Maybe. Probably not. Chances are pretty slim. So don't wait for a phone call from President Trump or any of his staff. This is probably not going to happen. What you need to do is you need to understand that you, in the mirror, you are the one that needs to do the work. You're the one that needs to stand up and get active. You're the one that needs to push back against the unconstitutional mandates that don't even apply to you. I did a show here with Ron Gibson last week. Last week? I think it was last Friday. Freedom Friday with Ron Gibson. And he talked about that very thing. You can look it up on my YouTube channel. You can watch the video. It's about 2.5 minutes when he says that the executive orders don't even apply to the folks. They don't apply to us. They apply to the branches, or shouldn't say the branches, but the departments, the Defense Department or the Health and Human Services, and of course the cabinet level positions. I'm talking presidential directives. But ultimately, what it comes down to, whether it's a governor or a president, their executive orders don't apply to you. All right? That's why we have a legislature. That's why the folks vote in the legislature to represent them. They're the closest to the people. They're the only group that can create laws. I mean, it's like a king. The governor of any state making these sweeping proclamations. That's what kings did. Right? This is what kings and queens do. Right? This is not representative of the people. And I'm not saying that you don't vote for the governor. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the legislature is the ones that are in place for that particular function, not the governor. Right? Because single individuals can become tyrants, as we see, and often do. That's most of the time they do. There's very, very few benevolent dictators, folks. Right? Don't live in that fantasy. Well, they're going to be benevolent. Socialism's take over. We're going to have benevolent leaders. No, we won't. No, we won't. We sure won't. And you know why? History dictates back in the 20th century, there's a thing called democide. I've done a show or two, I believe, on it. The guys from University of Hawaii, I don't remember their names, but they did a study on the 20th century, death by government, 263 million people. I think that's the correct number. 263 million people died that they know of, that they could get records for, at the hands of the government in the 20th century, last century. That's right, 263 million people died at the hands of government. That's right. Doesn't sound very benevolent to me. Doesn't sound very benevolent to me at all. Right? We always have to be on guard. It doesn't matter who it is, even President Trump. Of course, I support President Trump. You see him sitting over my shoulder. But that doesn't mean that even if President Trump, when he does get elected for the second term, it doesn't mean that we fall asleep at the wheel. We have to hold all of our leaders accountable. All of our so-called leaders are elected representatives because they're there to represent you. Right? What they do reflects upon you because you're the one that put them there. So we have to keep all of our leaders. We have to keep an eye on all of them. Right? That's the reason that we're in the situation that we're in right now. We've trusted men, right, who are fallible, right? We know this. Even your own heart. At times, you've probably done things you regret or maybe done things that you wish you wouldn't have, right? We're fallible. We're human. We can't put all of our faith and trust in any human being, Trump or no Trump, right? Or anybody else. That's why we're in the position that we're in right now, folks. A couple of reasons. One of the main ones is we've asked God to remove God out of everything, right? Now, not is it now as a separation of church and state, but now it's offensive if you talk about spiritual things. Now it's switched up. Now it's offensive. Now you offend the people. It's not like, well, we don't want to be included. We don't want it to be part of our program. No, now you're evil if you want to talk about godly things, right? And another reason that we're in such bad shape is the pastors. We talked about this before. The pastors in this country have failed miserably. They sold out. They sold out. This is the situation that we're in now, folks. Is it the best situation to be in? Well, it's not the best situation to be in, but I can tell you one thing. It's a way better situation with Donald Trump as the president than it would have been with anybody else. Because anybody else would have been a globalist. Now, I don't think Ron Paul was a globalist. I was a Ron Paul fan. Think he's a solid guy. Still like Ron Paul. But he didn't have that. He was a gentleman, and taking nothing away from Trump. But Ron Paul just didn't have that smash you in the mouth, counter punch type of mentality that Trump has. I don't mean to say he's not a gentleman. I've never met him. I understand he's quite a gentleman. But when I say that, I mean that, you know what I mean, right? That chutzpah, that just, bam, right? You come at me, I'm going to punch you right back in the mouth, right? That's what men do. Taking nothing away from Ron Paul. I think Ron Paul's a good guy. He just didn't have that eye of the tiger. He didn't have that go for the throat type mentality that's necessary to take on these globalists, right? I mean, folks, you can already see how powerful and wicked they are. They use their media machine to crush Ron Paul. I remember sometimes, even when he would come in second, like in a vote, he'd come in second or third. They didn't even include him. They didn't even include him. They just omitted him from the results. And he would get number second. They just omitted him. That's what they did. That's what they're doing to conservatives now. They're omitting them. They're just cutting us out of the loop, not letting us talk, not letting us put out our ideas. On some channels, I mean, in the main ones, of course, there's alternatives. And I do have a Parler account. I don't spend a lot of time on there. And I know there's probably an alternative to Facebook as well. I'm on these platforms now because that's where my audience is, and that's where I think the fight is. And taking nothing away from the fine people over at Parler, and other places. I know Dan Bongino, and I really do need to get a Rumble account. Dan Bongino's a solid guy, patriot, and I want to support him. And but the battle right now is on the mainstream platforms, and it's almost they're exposing themselves. The old saying is, what's the best way to what is it about a tyrant? Have them expose themselves. What's the best way to expose a tyrant is have them to act like one. That's I probably butchered that, but you know what I mean. My point is you allow them to be able to show their colors, to prove that they're tyrants. And every time that President Trump, every time more evidence comes out of the voter fraud, and every time President Trump puts out a tweet, and every time they put a little disclaimer on the bottom of that tweet, that further, for the normies or for the people that are kind of middle of the road, that happens over and over again. Eventually they're going to be going, wait a minute, this is like, we see that there is some evidence of fraud, but Twitter keeps putting the fraud warning on all these tweets. Maybe Twitter's not genuine. Maybe they're not who we think they are. I don't know what goes through people's mind, but the fact of the matter is, there are a ton of people out there, who have no idea what's going on. Let me see here. Let me see if I can approve this. There we go. There's a couple of here. Let me prove those posts here in the YouTube. There's a large portion of the people here now. Some people, a small percentage and growing though, have been awake for a long time. But understand, that's why there's so much frustration among people that have been awake for a long, long time, because they've seen things, right? They know. They go, why in the world are these people still walking around committing crimes? Okay, but that's like maybe 12% of the population, maybe 15. The other 85% have no clue what's going on, right? So if Trump went through right now and started arresting the crooks without really all of the evidence being out there, then people that are like in the middle or on the fence or not sure what's going on, they would start saying he's a tyrant. That's what tyrants do. Tyrants go out and lock up their enemies and throw them in jail. That's currently, although there's still 80 million or however many Trump fans, no, that's not true. There's 300 and something million people in the country, folks. 80 million is not everybody. There's there's less, it's what, 25% roughly of the population. The other 75%, not saying they're not Trump fans, but they're either non-participants, they either don't care, they don't, who knows. But the other percentage of the population, if Trump goes out and just starts locking up people without like sufficient evidence and proof, then they're going to call him a tyrant. They're going to say, see, we knew he was Hitler all along, and he's acting like Hitler now. So there has to be, it sucks. It sucks. It really does. But war sucks. No one ever said war was good or nice or happy, right? Or easy. And we're in a war. We are in a war currently, right now, in this country, right? And our commander-in-chief is right over the shoulder there, taking all the arrows and the slings and all that stuff, right? Now he has a great cadre of digital soldiers and people on the ground that support him, but he's the man up front right now, out in front. And do I agree with 100% of everything that he does and says? Well, no, of course not. Would you really want, though? Would you really want to? I mean, this is, disagreement brings up dialogue and brings out points that maybe people didn't think of before. And it's better for everyone as long as it's respectful. Now, some of the things that they say to me, is minor compared to what they say about him. But hey, what are you going to do? Haters are going to hate. We're going to take a quick break here. We get back on the other side. We're going to talk about some of the things here that I believe are going to be, are going to be going away perhaps in 2021. Let me see here. going to crank up my my microphone's actually in pretty good rate, pretty good range. Somebody's mentioning the volume. I got it cranked up pretty high right now. I can't think I can crank it any higher. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I've listed some of the things here that I think are going to be gone. Mega banks, mainstream media, big pharma, IRS, those type of things. We're going to cover those and that much more on the other side of this brief commercial break. Thanks so much. James White, Northwest Liberty News, northwestlibertynews.com. Be back after these brief messages.
If you like classic cars, exceptional service, and a money-back guarantee, then the Corner Shop in beautiful downtown Kalispell is the place for you. Whether it's an oil change, engine diagnostic, suspension work, or brakes all around, the Corner Shop has you covered. With expert technicians and a free consultation on all services, you can't go wrong with the Corner Shop. Did I mention the classic cars? While you're waiting for your expert service to be performed, take a stroll through the showroom to see Kalispell's smoothest collection of classic cars. The Corner Shop is conveniently located at 1212 South Main, just south of the courthouse. The Corner Shop is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., so drop by for an appointment or call 755-7777. That's 755-7777. The Corner Shop, Kalispell's full-service auto repair facility.
Have you heard of Protovite? The most common health concern today is poor digestive health. Unlike ordinary supplements, Protovite is a liquid multi-nutrient formula with patent-pending absorption technology. A published scientific study proves that Protovite is nutrition that gets in 100% of the time. Protovite uses the highest quality ingredients to rapidly nourish every cell in your body.
My name is Sandra. 6 weeks ago, when I started taking Protovite, I was on 14 medications, from everything for blood pressure to fibromyalgia. In the first 10 days, my blood sugar dropped 50 points, and my fibromyalgia pain is gone. And so was 12 of the 14 medications that I was taking.
Protovite, nutrition that gets in. Buy Protovite now.
Thank you, Protovite, for giving my life back.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Work with your doctor when taking medications. Make Protovite part of your healthy lifestyle.
Okay, folks, if you want to support this broadcast, you can do so by supporting our sponsors. Bloodboost.net, that's bloodboost.net, is the site to go to check out all the great Protovite products there. They're this the highest quality formulation by Bill Downs and his team. They've had Bill on the show numerous times. And the great thing about all of the products there on bloodboost.net is they all support your immune system, which is the key, really, to good health. And I'm not a vaccine guy. I don't think that this vaccine apparently that's on the way has been tested long enough or had enough, studies done to be able to actually to take it. Then we got a call coming in here. I have to wait. I can't take a call right here during the show. At any rate, you don't necessarily need, I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice, but if you keep your immune system strong and healthy, you're not going to get as much sickness. You're not going to get as much disease. It's a simple formula, I think, really. And so, I'm not, like I said, a nutritionist or doctor by any means, but I do know that Protovite is good stuff. I take it every day. You go to bloodboost.net to check it out. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things. Well, I just mentioned if you want to support this news broadcast, we certainly could use your support. northwestlibertynews.com. That's northwestlibertynews.com. And click on the Support Independent News button there. Right when you see it's right along the top menu there. And you can make a direct contribution here to the website or to the show. And that would be greatly appreciated because we are supported by you, the listener. So thanks so much for that. We appreciate that. northwestlibertynews.com. Okay, let's go over a couple of things here that I think are going to perhaps maybe not be around. Now, let me preface this by saying this list is not all inclusive. These things may not go down, so to speak, in 2021, but they're going to be damaged to the point where either they will be on their way out or they will be restructured completely to where the benefit doesn't all go to the very small group at the top, so instead of the rest of the folks like it should go. So again, this is not an all-inclusive list, and there's probably some on here that I'm sure that I have forgotten, but these are the ones I just put down real quick just to chat about and analyze, and that's what we're going to do now. So let's go here. This first, I call the storm damage because I think that's what it's going to be. Mega banks. Okay, mega banks. There could be probably no other, I guess, institution that has caused more turmoil or heartache in the lives of humans than mega banks. And I'm including the Federal Reserve, which is a little lower on the list. But the Federal Reserve is a consortium of mega banks, 6 or 7, I believe, that pretty much control the money supply here. Now, and I said Federal Reserve is down a little bit lower. But what I'm understanding is Trump now is pretty much the de facto Fed chief, at least reported by Yahoo News. I did a show, when I was doing some news analysis a couple of months back. Forget what that was, but I read it right from the Yahoo News. The fake news said that Trump is essentially the Fed chairman now, and I don't pretend to know how all of that, the finances and that works out specifically, but Yahoo News and others printed that. So the banks, I believe, have robbed people with their credit default swaps. If you look at J.P. Morgan with their hypothecation of precious metals, it's all a big fraud. A lot of banking is fraud and fudged numbers, and a lot of these banks will work all together. They work together. They work together to manipulate rates. They work together to disenfranchise the folks. If you look at Wells Fargo Bank, I think Wells Fargo Bank have gotten slapped down a few times, and I think in one case they created like just an outrageous amount of false accounts under people's names without even telling them. I had a friend of mine who had 53, I believe, if that's the number. I think the number is 53. In the 50s, 53 accounts at Wells Fargo Bank. She calls in to get some help with her banking, and they go, "Which account?" She's like, "What do you mean? Which account are you talking about?" The account that I always use. Well, there's like 50-something accounts here. Which one? It's like, there's what? That's right. And they just didn't do that to her. They did that to many people. Banks, the way that they're set up right now, they're basically criminal money laundering operations. That's really what they do. Right? And they busted these banks laundering the Mexican drug money, $450 billion? Is that what it was? $450 billion of Mexican drug money a few years back. No one went to jail for that one, as far as I know. They had to pay a fine. So you launder $450 billion of drug money, and you pay a $6 million fine. Yeah, that's fair and equitable. That's really going to be a huge deterrent for people. It reminds me of this documentary I watched some years back about these companies dumping chemicals into the local water supply. They estimated that this one company, I want to say it was in Ohio, it was $78 million is what they had suspected. That's what it would cost them to dispose of their toxic waste every year. So they just dumped it in the river. They got caught. They got a $1 million fine. A $1 million fine for dumping that toxic sludge into the local water system. So you see, this is we have to stop it's becoming it's profitable to act bad. It's profitable to do the wrong thing. We have to stop this. $78 million for legitimate cleanup, or $1 million fine for dumping it in the local water. What do you think they're going to do as a business? They're a for-profit company. Well, of course, they're going to dump the chemicals into the water and take the $1 million fine. Of course. And that's exactly what they did. I don't know if that's still going on. I hope and pray it's not. But who knows? They don't call me. No one consults with me. So, yeah, there's crime going on every day, everywhere, dumping stuff and not following regulations. And, not that I'm a big regulation guy. I think sometimes we're overregulated. But, I think the regulation that stops people from dumping chemicals into the water supply, that's a good regulation. That's a regulation I could stand behind. It's a regulation I could certainly stand behind. Like I said, hope it's not still going on. I don't know. Okay, so let's hear the next one. Mainstream media. Oh boy. Mainstream media. I sure hope that mainstream media is gone in 2021. I have a pretty good sense that they're going to be, because I think they're involved in the attempt to overthrow the country. They are involved in the attempt to overthrow a sitting president, and they continue even now. As I stated, Baghdad Bob, folks. Baghdad Bob. The media is still appalled that President Trump has not conceded when there's no evidence of any wrongdoing. This is the most secure election of all time. Whatever other shenanigans that they're trying to pull over on us. Right? They're going to continue. If they got handcuffed and the Department of Justice walked in and handcuffed these people live on air, they'd be calling Trump a fascist, and there's no evidence as they're getting dragged away. Right? They're not going to concede. They're not going to say and come out and do a mea culpa and say, we're sorry, we've been spreading, lies and propaganda to you good folks, and calling it news for about 3 or 4 decades now, or longer. Geez, literally decades, we wish. Probably longer than that, right? You think they're going to come out and say that? Please, folks, sorry, we've been fooling you all along. We've been part of the con. No, of course not. Of course not. And I've told the story before, and you wonder how they capture the mainstream media, how they do it. How they do it. Simple. Money. Money. This is not rocket science. What's the Bible say? It doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money. Right? The love of money. So how do they do it? How do they capture the media? How do they capture the media? Well, people like Rockefeller would go to a smaller town, as an example, go to the local newspaper, start advertising with them. And then start advertising with them a lot, to the point where the local newspaper hired more staff, and increased their circulation, got a bigger building, right? Got a more widespread coverage, got a thicker newspaper, hired more writers, hired more staff, hired more photographers. It was a boom to these small town news agencies, right? And then the payoff, of course, for all that happened. That's when Rockefeller and his ilk wanted to get news stories out or block news stories, right? There's 2 types of lies. There's lies of commission and lies of omission. So what they wanted to do is, so anytime that he wanted either a story, spiked or published, he would give him the old, hey, you like all these extra employees? You like this larger building? You like all the circulation? Well, you want that to continue? Then you'll do what I say, or I'm going to stop my advertising. Well, what do you think these people did? They do what most people do. They sold out. They sold out. I said, yeah, okay. We don't want to, that means we just hired a new staff. We just expanded our building. We just increased our mortgage. We can't afford not to have your advertising dollars. And he wouldn't do that to one paper. He'd do it to many papers, until pretty soon, everything that was being put out as quote unquote news all had the globalist or the Rockefeller, and there's others, but they all had their slant on it, right? And then when they moved over to the universities and they funded the endowments for the professors, and of course the professors made a lot of money off of research and what they would do, and then they would say, okay, well, if we don't like this research you did here, yeah, that hurts my oil business. So I want you to spike that. Or you won't get any more grants. You won't get any more grants. We won't give you any more money. So this new house you just bought and the vacation home, And the new car that you have that you're making payments on, well, you won't have that money anymore because we're going to cut off your funding. All those grants are going to go away, and you're going to have to go back to living a professor's lifestyle again. Whoa, no. Wait a minute. And all I got to do is just spike this story. What do I need to sign? What do I need to sign? And on and on and on. It's not rocket science, folks. It doesn't take a deep investigation to figure out what happened in this country. People sold out for cash. That's it. That's really, I wish it was more complicated and I could do some sort of a PhD dissertation and dig down deeply into things and peel back all the layers of the onions and give you specific, statistics or really, here's the basics. People sold out for filthy lucre. They sold out their country and their truth for cash. I don't know what to say. If you have another explanation, throw it in the chat room. Be happy to hear it. But in my estimation, that's exactly what happened in this country. We're sold out. We're sold out. It's really hard to do the right thing, folks, and most people don't. Most people don't. When it comes down to doing the right thing, most people fail. They do. It's sad. It's sad. It's not because they're bad people. It's because they're weak people. Their foundation is weak. They have a weak foundation. They've built their foundation on the sand when they should have built it on the rocks. And that's what you see. That's what you see with these quote-unquote so-called men in this country. And I rail on men a lot. I don't rail on men. I rail on males. Right? I bash males. Men, I have a kinship with. I appreciate men. Males, sorry, not so much. Not so much. More males need to become men in this country. That's what needs to happen. And that's nothing against women. I'm all for women being the best that they can be. I have nothing against women. Most of the people that have ever worked for me, also to the letter, have always been women. I actually enjoy working with women more than men. So I have nothing against women. They're smart. They're accomplished, right? And they're well, I'm married to one, so I don't know what else to say. It's men that are the problem and lack thereof. Lack thereof. It's males that needs to grow a set. I don't know how else to put it, right? I mean, and here's the thing, folks. Generally speaking, it may seem now like that's the way that, beta male is what women want. Women don't really want that. They really don't. There's such a very small percentage of the population that really want these beta males, right? Women know they're the weaker sex, right? They know that men are stronger and men are designed for battle more and fighting more and protecting the clan and the family. Women are more for child rearing and bringing up, keeping the family together, the glue that holds everything together domestically, while the guys out there, in the old days, killing the wild animal or whatever, conquering lands and, whatever, right? So this is the natural order of things. This whole women being in dominance and men being subservient, that's not the natural order of things. And that's, hey, say nothing against women that move up in the company, and that's fine. More power to you. I'm stopping you from doing anything. I'm just saying in general, look at society right now. What you're seeing is, one of the things you're seeing a society that is absent of men, right? Males are not going to lead the charge into the next new whatever we're heading here toward. This whole, you got to know that things are changing. As I said before, the old way is out and the new way is coming in. What that new way is going to be, that depends upon us. But whatever that is, it's not going to be led by males. It's going to have to be led by men. Okay? It's going to have to be led by men. That's one of the things that's going to turn this country back around again. And I do believe that there is going to be a resurgence. I think, toxic masculinity, whatever they call it, is about to make a comeback. Because what they call toxic is the natural order of men protecting women. And as I said before, it was CPS. If men would stand up, none of this would go on. None of the trafficking would go on. None of the kidnapping would go on. None of the abuse would go on. If men would stand up and be men, we could end a lot of this evil overnight. What's it going to take? I don't know. I'm doing my part. Are you doing your part? It's all in this. We're all in this together, folks. Not one person allowed this to happen, and not one person's going to fix it all. Taking nothing away from Donald Trump, but he's not doing it alone. He knows this. He's got a team of people that's helping him. I'm sure some of these people probably are still, deep state. I sure hope he's not still surrounded by deep state. Probably is. There's a lot of them, right? He just eliminated 11 or 12 people from some advisory board for the Department of Defense, I believe, of the Pentagon, something like that. And Kissinger and Madeleine Albright was two of the people, and others. So that is deep state for sure. Kissinger and Madeleine Albright, for crying out loud, they could be the king and queen of the deep state, for Pete's sake. So he's getting rid of them. Now he's in Camp David today. Are we in a position right now where we're coming close to him starting to President Trump and his Department of Justice starting to release some really, really bombshell, hardcore information? It's going to have to come out sometime soon, folks. As I said, the type of stuff that President Trump has in his repertoire that he hasn't even released yet could bring down nations. It's true. It's true. I believe the stuff that President Trump has that he's not releasing could literally bring down nations, and I don't exaggerate when I say that. I don't think that's what the goal is, to bring down nations across the country. I think, and I don't pretend to know, like I said, he doesn't call me and clue me in on this. But I would suppose, based upon his activities here in America, I would suppose that Donald Trump is probably a big proponent of everyone rising up in their own country and exposing the fraud that is in their country and rising up as a grassroots, the folks rising up and taking their country back. I would suppose that's probably the motivation of some of the things that Donald Trump does. Tries to lead by example. You don't think that other people in other countries, when they see the Donald Trump rallies and they see 50 and 60,000 people all at these Donald Trump rallies, you don't think that inspires people in other nations? You're damn right it does. You're damn right it does. And you see that happening. You see that happening. It has to be a collective effort, again. Right? Nations all over the world are about to rise up against the tyranny. They're about to rise up against the tyranny. People are weak in the beginning. They're frightened. They're afraid. But when they see others stand up, and they see the courage that other people have to stand in the face of tyranny, it gives them courage. It helps them rise up. It helps them be everything that they can be. Because we have not been everything we can be, folks. Not even close. Not even close. The scoundrels that run things have held back so much technology from us, so much medical, so many cures. I mean, there's just we're going to have a time here, a reckoning. There's going to be a reckoning here soon. There's not only going to be a reckoning in the world, there's going to be a reckoning in your own heart as well. Right? You're going to have to come to terms with some things. This is the hardest thing I believe the hardest task that most people are going to have to overcome, or at least work on, is the fact that they have been fooled for so long and they have been conned, right? And there's going to be that pride. They're not going to want to believe it. They're going to say, I can't believe it. Not me. I'm too smart. I'm smarter than that. You may be, but you've been fooled like the rest of us, right? Accept it. Once you accept the fact that there's been an organized criminal cabal in play that have manipulated every single solitary institution you can imagine, especially the media, and that have been lying to you your whole entire lives, there's going to be a reckoning in your own heart. Not only a reckoning, as I said, worldwide and in this country, but it's going to be an individual reckoning too. Now, some of us, of course, are going to be able to handle it a little bit better than others because we've been doing this for so long and we're aware of what's going on. But I think no matter how long I've been doing this, I don't know everything that's been going on. There's probably things that are going to come out that even I am going to be amazed by. I'm sure. Those are the type of things that happen in an awakening. So is a storm coming? I didn't even get close to getting to these lists here. We're coming towards the end of the show. Is a storm coming? I say yes. I say the storm is here. I say the storm is here now. And when it blows through and the water recedes and all the smoke clears, we have the opportunity to have the greatest experience as a nation and as people than we've ever had the opportunity to have in our entire lives. But that's only going to happen if we work to make it happen. Freedom's never free, folks. You've heard that before, and that's absolutely true. You can't place your liberties in someone else's hands. You can't expect someone else to be the guardians of your liberty. If nothing else, there's all these events from 2020. If nothing else, if it did nothing else, I would hope that it prompted you to be active and to stand up and to realize that you have a lot more power than you think. But power is useless unless you exercise it. Power is useless unless you exercise it. I'm not saying in a mean way. I'm not saying grab baseball bats and or tire irons and no, I'm not talking about that. You don't need to use violence to exert your power. You don't. The left thinks that you do. The left thinks that's the only way that you can exert your power is through violence. It's not true. It's not true. It's coming to the end of the program here, folks. We so much appreciate you looking in here on the show. I appreciate all the support that you've given me here on my program. If you want to continue to support me, you can go to northwestlibertynews.com. That's northwestlibertynews.com. And click on the Support Independent News button. I didn't realize someone was on hold there. Sorry about that. I just recognized that someone was on hold. We're not taking any calls. Sorry about that, caller. I just got over to the call screen. Didn't know you were going to call in. I didn't really call for
90 seconds.
Hang up the phone here. Yeah, I will open up next show. I will open up calls. I'll do a longer show, and I will have calls. But we appreciate you looking in here today. northwestlibertynews.com. That's northwestlibertynews.com. Let's hope this first Podbean podcast turned out okay. And we, of course, are on the other channels here as well. Blog Talk Radio. That's who you hear in the background, the Blog Talk gal. So she's going to come up here in just a couple seconds and say that again.
60 seconds.
There we go. So you see we have 60 seconds left on the show. James White, Northwest Liberty News, appreciate you looking in. And support this show and support other independent news outlets because we're supported by you folks. There's no military industrial complex or any of this stuff. So thanks for looking in. Until next time, James White for Northwest Liberty News saying bye now.
10 seconds.